I did DMT 3 times in a day.
Wow.
And the third time, it was a really strong one. And it fucked me up for a while. I don't remember how long afterwards, but this was during the Fear Factor days. But I remember reality, the way I described it, the reality was very slippery.
Yeah.
Very slippery. Like, I kept thinking that cars were going to fly over the incoming lane and crash into my car and kill me.
Oh, real slippery.
Yeah, I kept thinking, like, be really careful. But then I realized that what that is like my ego trying to protect me by making me aware of imminent threats and trying to reestablish its position as in the chain of command. Because like one of the things about really extreme psychedelic experiences that they dissolve the ego to the point where you realize like you don't really matter. Like you're a part of some crazy system, and the only reason why you think you really matter is because your biology wants to stay alive, because there's these inherent existential threats to your existence that have always existed throughout time. And you know, ultimately though, it doesn't matter because you're just going to live and die and probably live again and die again, and this is like this never-ending cycle. Yeah, and you're part of something.
One of those guys said anytime you're like fighting it, like you're just like, it just means you haven't taken it enough. I think that was like Terrence McKenna or one of those guys.
Well, I knew that the pineal gland looked like a pine cone.
And so when he asked you, you just knew this?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Well, I'd already had a lot of experiences with DMT.
Right.
So I already knew. I knew there's a realm accessible to anybody that gets in contact with that stuff that is beyond imagination. It is more real than reality. And when you go there, you've been there before. The most bizarre feeling about it is this terrifying fear while it's happening, and then incredible peace when you get in there, and a recognition like, oh, I know this place. I've been here. I'm here all the time. I know these things. I know these beings. These beings are, they're truth. They're something from somewhere else, somewhere that's probably around us all the time, that's influencing us all the time. I know a lot of people have had very negative experiences, like horrific experiences of demons and negative encounters. I've had none. I've had no negative experiences like that. My experiences are all in these very enlightened, bizarre creatures that contact you. And they seem to know like what's wrong with me, like right away. And they seem to like also work on you. Like there's this bizarre feeling like they're like, let me get in there and fix your fucking wires.
Well, that of course.
Would you be comfortable sharing some of your own psychedelic experiences?
Sure. I mean, the DMT experiences are by far the most profound. And those are the ones that have really made me, every time I've done it, it's just completely made me rethink how I interface with people, what life is, and what that experience, what is that? Is that a well of souls you're entering into? Is it another dimension? Is it some sort of parallel dimension of disembodied consciousness that you seem to be engaging with life forms, with things that know you, that can see your thoughts and see resistance and see bullshit in you? I mean, it's every time I've done it, it's sort of just like, in one way or another, just removed one layer of the onion, one layer of bullshit that keeps you from just embracing the great mystery of this.
With me, I really felt like once was enough. I know you have a different approach, but
maybe everybody's different. I mean, once is enough because it's so fucking scary. You don't want to do it again. I get it. But every time I've ever been troubled and I've done it, I feel way better. Mm-hmm. I'm like...
DMT specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about DMT specifically.
Yeah, every time I've ever done it, I'm like, God, the things I concentrate on are so stupid.
Yeah.
The things that worry me are so foolish.
I find that with MDMA. I find MDMA to be very sort of useful as a reset button.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it also makes you realize like how insecure you are and how insecure most people are with interactions with each other. And when those barriers are down, how wild the experience is of just not having any fear of human interaction.
Yeah.
That's something I only did once. And the problem that I had with it was after it was over, I felt so drained. But I didn't have any strategy for like taking, some sort of a serotonin booster, like 5-HTP, which is what people take that are like, that really know what they're doing with that stuff. They take 5-HTP to boost up their serotonin while they're doing it, so that after it's over, they're not just crashed. Because the next day, I was useless. I remember I was in a coffee shop the next day, and I was trying to read a magazine, and I couldn't read. I couldn't concentrate. I literally couldn't read this magazine. I was like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. My brain feels like I felt, the way I described it was like I had a dry sponge for a brain. And normally it's wet and filled with water. Now it's just like this dopey, dry sponge. And was it worth it? Maybe, but I had stuff to do that day.
Right.
I had a show that night.
And this was after doing
The regular DMT trips I've had, they're intensely self-examinatory.
Yeah.
Like the insight that you have into your own life and your own world, your own mind is just it's scary because it's so clear. The clarity is so bizarre.
Yeah, it freaked me out, man. I'm not gonna lie, and I've done my fair share of acid. I'm big on psychedelics and
DMT, some next level shit.
Yeah, but I've had nothing like this, and you try to explain it and you can't, because there's nothing you can't find the words to explain sometimes what you see. And you're a little bit more educated about it than I am. You could probably find the words, Like sometimes you fucking talk like a scientist and shit. I'm like following, like, but
It's bullshitting, trust me.
But at the same time, like for people that might not be educated, it's still hard for me to put into words what I saw. But the reality is what you're seeing is everything literally melt down and deconstruct and reconstruct around you, and your eyes are wide open. And it literally, for me, that was the only thing that freaked me out. The fact that my eyes weren't closed, but my environment was completely altered immediately, almost before I could even exhale all the smoke. Before I was even leaning back on my couch, I mean, the room rearranged itself and became something else. And I felt happy.
Graham Hancock has a very fascinating way of looking at it. And what he thinks... The way he described it to me, I never heard anybody describe it this way before, but it made total sense. He said, everyone says you're taking drugs and it's distorting your perception of reality, and that's what you're saying. He goes, that is a possibility. Another possibility is that, like a telescope needs to be tuned in to see a far-off star, that what you're doing by taking this chemical that your brain already makes, you're tuning in to something that's ordinarily impossible for you to see. And that there is this dimension that is around you all the time. And it is filled with intelligent entities. And he said, we must consider that is so little understanding of, and also so little understanding, especially when it comes to something as extreme as DMT. There's still a giant percentage of our population doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they should all take it, especially the fucking politicians. I like to get those politicians, man, and fucking get them in a room and force them to take DMT and then see how they're going to behave afterwards, how they're going to look at the world and treat people after they had that experience. I don't think you can be, so self-centered and unfeeling as most of them are after you've had that experience.
I think that any breakthrough psychedelic experience, whether it's psilocybin or LSD or DMT, they're
all pretty much,
ego dissolving,
different road to the same place.
Well, Terence McKenna used to say that DMT is the center of the mandala. The way I describe DMT is it's like mushrooms times 1,000,000 plus aliens.
Yeah.
And that it seems so titanically bizarre that there's like, I've tried to describe it to people, but I always say, look, I'm going to tell,
I'm
going
to do it, man.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some bullshit words.
Yeah,
I'm
you can't really do it because you can't.
There's no way.
We don't have the words,
right,
to put it into words. You can attempt to. I went to this place. Well, it's not a place, but I don't have the word for it.
The place is everywhere.
Yeah, it's like, and there's colors, there's numbers, there's shapes, and
people, things,
and there's like
gestures.
Everything is all one fucking thing. And what I noticed is like, my breath was connected to it. I don't know how it happened, but I was in the trip and I went like that, and the whole thing moved. I was like, really? Let me try this then. And then the whole thing moved, and then there was music playing, and the music was part of the thing as well.
Yeah.
Like the thing. I don't even know what to call it. The thing, the place. I don't have a word, you know.
We played a bunch of these shaman Icaros.
Yeah.
And the shaman Icaro, this is the last time I did it. And the shaman Icaros like literally made the DMT images dance.
Yeah.
Like they had figured out a way with these sounds and songs to integrate these beats into DMT trips. And as you would take these trips, these shamans had figured out the right sounds and songs and how to make the trip more intense.
Don't you think this is like when you smoke DMT, and I've never smoked DMT, and I never would do any illegal psychedelic. But let's say that let's say that I'd recently done it at, like, I don't know, Burning Man, where no one's doing drugs there anymore. But let's say that I'd done it there. But
People are so confused.
Anymore.
The point is, like,
back in the old days,
man,
it was better.
Like, so making up that I had that, I had a crazy experience, man, where I looked down after drinking this very strong mint tea, and I saw this fucking, I don't know, it looked kind of like a cow or something, but coming out of it had this long neck with like a technological lantern hanging off of it. And I'm looking at that thing, and what's interesting about DMT is you look away and you look back, that fucking thing's still there, man. It's just right there. I'm like, what the fuck? Got sucked through this tube into this beautiful, beautiful domed structure. Oh man, it was so pretty, and it's spinning with potential. It's just pure potentiality. And I'm looking at this incredible thing. It's technology for sure. I mean, whatever this was, the way my brain was interpreting it is like, this is technology. Like, I'm looking at some kind of super advanced simulator or some kind of machine that is like simulating realities. And I'm looking at it, it's like, my God, it's just so much potential here. But I thought to myself, I'm going to miss my friends if I have to hang out in the...
There's also supposedly some people who don't have a reaction to DMT. There's a small percentage of people that try it where nothing happens.
I went 2 separate occasions where first time it didn't work for me, and then the second time it did.
Was the first time bad stuff, or did you not
I think the
smoke
first time
enough?
we didn't administer it right, and then the second time it was done right. You know,
the second time was.
Second time was like, because also I hit it extra hard because I was like, there ain't no mistake, it's gonna work this time. So I had this really like, I mean, man,
you know what?
Shit was crazy.
My story is the same as yours, almost. It's slightly different in that I did it. The first time I did it, it was pretty fucking profound. Intensely profound, and I thought I'd hit the center of the universe. And then the second time I did it, I blew way past that spot to some complete new place where there was no avoiding it and no denying it. And I went, oh, this is it. And then that's the spot I've been kind of going to pretty much every time since then.
Yeah.
But the first time was unbelievably profound, way more profound than anything else, and I didn't really even get all the way through.
Right, I haven't been through yet. Like that world that you're talking about.
Doug Stanhope had a whole bit once because I got him high on DMT,
right,
and blew his mind, and he went and did a whole bit about me and him doing DMT in my house. I thought he was dead. He was moaning and foaming, like legitimately foaming at the mouth. He was lying down going, ah,
for 15 minutes.
No, it was a solid 3 of moaning. With the point where I'm going, oh boy.
He was maybe he was just purging.
Well, I just started thinking, what did I do? Like, I made Doug do what I do, right? So I'm thinking, he'll be fine.
That's why I'm not doing what you do. You say 3 giant hits. I'm gonna do 1.5.
Here's my point. You're fucking healthy. Doug Stanhope smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day. He gets up, starts drinking, stops when he falls asleep.
So DMT, it matters of your physical.
Well, I just think what was going on, and it wasn't bad for him. He came back, he was fine. It's a natural drug that is in the human body. You don't overdose from it. No one's ever died from smoking DMT.
How many people have done DMT? I mean,
not a lot.
Yes, I'm saying. So how can we have
more
like
now than before?
Yeah, because you're pumping it. But how we don't have a very big audience of people we can pull through. Like, you've definitely OD'd on LSD or on alcohol.
This is what I think, without being irresponsible. I think that if you have any psychological issues, you probably shouldn't do anything that perturbs your state. Your psyche gets less alien.
Well, we had I'm not going to mention his name. I don't know his name, but we had an experience, me and my friend, a few months ago that I've never seen before. Because usually people take DMT, they're very calm and sit in a chair, and you go off and you might start laughing. But, you don't move much, right? And this guy, he just, like, freaked out. Like, and it wasn't for 10 minutes, but for half an hour. My friend was a former MMA fighter. He used to fight with Shamrocks. So he knew wrestling techniques, so he had to hold this guy on the floor to stop him from hurting himself, because he was totally freaking out. So I could see the guy was going through something traumatic from the past. So today I messaged him. I was like, hey, did you ever find out what was that? Because he said, yeah, it was from his birth.
What?
It was from his birth. When he was born, he had the cord around his neck.
Oh, Jesus.
And he went back and he relived this. And, like, so that had been in the back of his mind all his life. Subconscious. Subconscious has a huge effect on us, but we don't know it's there. So now he opened that box and let it out. And
soup.
Yep.
Fuck that drug.
He refers to it as the zero energy point field.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, that's definitely worth putting on your map. And if you're brave enough or foolish enough, it's probably worth exploring. But I'm too old for that shit. I can't. Not that it's, I mean.
My friend Duncan took it, and he took a huge dose because he didn't believe it was any. He had never done any DMT before, and he had done acid, and I had never done acid before. And I was telling him about DMT. He's like, "You've never even done acid." So he takes DMT in a big dose, and he calls me up. He's like, "Dude, what the fuck, man?" I'm like, "I told you." Like, "No, you didn't tell me. You kind of told me, but I didn't listen."
Right.
Holy shit! Like, he was convinced that he died.
He was a believer at that point.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Was he ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it's very disturbing, but again, impossible to ignore transcending.
Possible for any human being to have. Yes, we can jump out of an airplane at 10,000 feet. Yes, we can scale a sheer cliff. That's also very intense and very, very extraordinary. Yes, we can go scuba diving to the depths. But if we look at the whole range of human experiences and say, what is one of the most intense and potentially most transformative experiences it's possible to have, I would say DMT, done with the right intention in the right context, is right up there with anything else.
It's the most intense thing I've ever experienced.
Me too.
I mean, I've experienced everything, obviously. I've never been scuba diving, I've never been skydiving, and it doesn't mean that those things aren't intense as well. But to deny the impact of those things, it seems silly. And the people that are arguing against the efficacy of these experiences or against the influence of these experiences, to have those people actually haven't had taken these experiries arguing against them, it seems so silly.
It's crazy. It's crazy that they're
people are scared of them, though.
But it's those people who are running the rules in our society still.
Yeah. Well, if they weren't, that would be really terrifying. If our society was run in the way it is now by a bunch of people doing DMT, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but that's one thing we can be quite sure. If our society was run by a bunch of people doing DMT, it wouldn't be run in the way that it's run.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I tried to explain to someone about DMT that I've kind of used over and over again since then is that I felt like I met with the divine force of the universe, or a divine force. Maybe my puny little brain could only comprehend this level of divinity, and that maybe perhaps there was something even more profoundly more powerful and knowledgeable and wise past that, but I wasn't ready to perceive it. That maybe there's levels to that it's fractal just like everything else. And someone said, like, well, how do you know that wasn't a hallucination? I go, well, it could have been, but here's the deal. Whether or not it was or wasn't, the experience is the same. Like, if you really go into some other dimension and meet God, or you take a drug in which you experience going to another dimension and meeting God, it's still the same experience, the exact same experience.
And why is everybody's experience kind of similar?
Right.
Wouldn't it have all a totally different fucking illusion?
No one seems to think it's no big deal.
Yeah.
No one that I know who's ever done DMT is like, it's no big deal.
You're not going to be the same afterwards.
No.
Your perspective is going to be different. Your point of view.
It's causing you to trip,
Yes.
but you might perceive it as a memory.
You could perceive it it feels as real, if not more real, than reality itself, because it's intensely colored and brightly lit, and there's no borders to things, but yet there are. It's very, very, very difficult to describe. I'm doing a terrible job of describing it. And all around you, it's alive with entities, and these entities are communicating with you both with sound and with visual cues. It's a very, very, very weird trip. Like, you think in a negative way, or if you try to control it, they'll like literally shake their finger at you, go no 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 no. But then if you get it right, it calms down. Like it's like a lesson in how to think. It's a very, very bizarre trip. The most bizarre out of all the psychedelics by far. The way I describe it is mushrooms times 1,000,000 plus aliens.
Yeah,
it's the mandala. It's the center of the mandala of all. This is how McKenna described it. The mandala of all the different psychedelic experiences. The center of it. The literally the fucking 0.0.
And what happened to you when you smoked DMT? I've mostly stuck to ayahuasca and mushrooms. That's what I've been researching. But what happens when you smoke it?
Well, I've smoked a couple different types too. I've smoked 5-methoxy DMT, which is quite different. The experience is much more of there's like DMT seems to allow you to keep who you are, and DMT allows you to examine the culture from some sort of a new realm that. It doesn't take you away from the very world that you live in. It just shows you another one. It would take you and put you in this place. It doesn't change who you are, though, which is really interesting. Like, when you're drunk, it changes who you are. You know, you're more loose, you're maybe a little more rowdy, you say sillier shit, whatever it is that your particular reaction is. But your thinking is changed. Your thinking is changed when you're on, opiates. Your thinking is changed when you're on marijuana. Not when you're on DMT. You're thinking exactly the same, but all of a sudden this door opens in your mind. You step on how you step out on an elevator. You make that step over that gap. You see the floor, you see the elevator, and the doors open. And as the doors open, the elevator is rising up. So, and you look down, you're forced to look down. There's a little slice of air between that elevator and the hotel. And then you realize what the fuck you're really doing. You're really stepping into this box that's hovering 70, 80 fucking stories over the ground, held up by steel cables, and you're going to go ride in this box. And then the door shuts, and that's what DMT feels like. DMT feels like, ready? Come on in. You step over this chasm. The door shuts, and then it opens. And then you just fucking go. It's like getting shot through a cannon of geometric patterns. And what I remember is the beginning of it literally being like the beginning of a ride. Like, it slowly exposed itself. Initially, you have blinders on, and it's colored like a Yellow Jacket bee. Like yellow and black. That's what I remember, like intensely strong, yellow and black that's moving, like sort of spiraling, but it's square. It's very square, and it's essentially like giving you like a little bit of a slow fucking before it goes after you. It's like, here, come on, I'm just gonna give you a little kiss. And it's like massaging your shoulders, like shooting you down this pipe, this crazy squared off pipe, and then boom. Into the big thing. And the beginning of it was so like, holy shit.
He was putting A and B together for you.
Yeah. He was allowing you to find the source to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But even though what he was selling was legal, I think he got off. I'm kind of speaking out of school here because it was a few years back and I didn't totally pay too much attention to it. But it is in so many different sources.
And it's a hallucinogenic.
Yes. It's a human neurotransmitter and an incredibly potent drug that's also the most transient drug ever exist, or one of the most transient drugs ever observed. So if you get, like if you smoke DMT, like I did it, like I said, last week, you're blasted to the center of the universe for about 15 minutes, and then you're back to baseline. Like, you're completely sober in 15 minutes. Because your body knows exactly what to do with it. Yeah. Your body knows exactly what to do with it. Because it's such a normal part of your chemistry. That your body can bring it back to baseline.
the mountain ranges and shit, I got a sense, I understood how old they were in a way you're kind of not supposed to.
What do you mean?
When someone goes, hey, can you believe the Rocky Mountains are 700,000 years old? And you go, yeah, that's crazy, but nothing happens. I kind of understood how long a time that was. I was like way out. I was way out, and then I slowly kind of came back. It took a year and a half.
And what was the negative aspects of being way out?
It was. I told somebody I was aiming for God, and I missed my stop. And I woke up on a moving train with no conductor and going 1,000,000 miles an hour.
So it was because you were taking in too much information that you hadn't considered before, so it became unmanageable?
The DMT, well, I had the Michael Pollan experience where the DMT took me to when I inhaled it, I went to before the Big Bang. And Michael Pollan said it on here because I looked it up. I was like, where have I heard? And I was like, that's where I was. And so I slowly... The issue was, so the DMT was pretty much a DMT 25-minute, 35-minute experience of I was before the Big Bang, and my personality kind of came back, and I was kind of going I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to be petty. I'm going to be a virtuous person. I'm just going to be I'm going to remember this God connection and all that stuff. And then a week later, I had a reactivation.
A week later?
Yeah. You know that thing of there's a thing which people have DMT reactivations where
a flashback.
Yeah, basically what the joke of an acid flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I had that and it's common with smoking DMT.
Yeah.
And I had one. So now it's a Sunday in New York. I'm on a coffee date with a woman in this side of my frame. This side is fucking pure whiteness, infinite time. It was harrowing.
So you saw it?
It wasn't like a pure split screen, but it was energetically kind of a split screen.
Was it something that you thought and you felt in your mind, or was it something you were experiencing visually?
It was, yeah, I shouldn't say that it was, I couldn't see it, but it felt.
You felt it?
Yeah, I felt it.
And so
I would say that I was split
of
between reality, current reality, and then this infinity. Sort of
saying
Yeah.
something where you couldn't look at it. It was too beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
And then it would say it again, I love you 600,500,000 times.
Yeah.
Look at this. And every time it was look at this, I remember crying.
Sure.
Because what I was looking at was too impossible to nothing could be that beautiful. And every time they would say, look at this, it would get 1,000,000 times more beautiful.
Yeah.
It was just taking my breath away. I couldn't breathe. It was very, very strange. But it was very, very, very positive. The experience all over was very positive. And so much of it was dude, relax.
Yeah.
Relax. This whole thing is, first of all, way beyond your control, way bigger than you think, and it's gonna be fine. That was a big a big theme. That if anything that I learned from it, I learned that. I think DMT made me a nicer person. I think I learned how to chill out more.
Sure.
It's really slow IV drip in England now.
Interesting.
And they're mapping these experiences. This was weird. They're doing long, full-in DMT experiences where they're going to the same places over and over again, and they're encountering very specific beings.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Over and
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
again.
Like the purple lady. There's this one purple snake-like lady that a lot of people have encountered. And if you go online, there's lots of people that have documented this purple snake lady.
Maybe, but what these guys are doing, they're doing it for hours and hours at a time in the DMT state because it's doing it through an IV. So this is a completely unusual experience.
When I did DMT,
That's wild.
It
That's
told me
wild.
that the aliens
Going to be inadequate. I would say a lot of what my impressions of DMT are, the most profound experiences are, it strips away, you get to see the raw data of experience in the unprocessed form. You know how we were talking about how the brain takes experience and puts it all together into some kind of a more or less comprehensible model and extrudes it out as your reality, your movie, the movie that you're producer, director, and star of. And it does that. DMT gives you a chance to kind of arrest that process. And again, as I said, step back from it and look at the raw data, look at the circuitry underneath, free of interpretation, and say, oh, okay, this is the machinery. This is the machinery that's generating reality. But again, by even saying that, I don't do it justice. I mean, it's slippery. Obviously, it's a slippery concept.
Intensely. And I've always wondered, like, what is the best, if there is a way to describe it to someone who hasn't experienced it. I don't think there is.
I think there is. And even to those of us who have experienced it, you can't describe it.
After my experience,
all you have is a memory.
Like I'd been tricked. Like, that's not anything like Terence McKenna or Dennis McKenna described it.
What was your experience like? No self-transforming machine elves?
Well, I'm thinking of my first mushroom experience. But no, my first DMT experience was, I mean, it sounds trivial, but it was sort of like some sort of gingerbread or Play-Doh that was alive and talking to me. And I was just sort of one aspect of the Godhead, just sort of
gingerbread or Play-Doh.
It was sort of
like
alive,
self-transforming gingerbread people.
I guess in a way it didn't look like an elf, but it kind of had that aspect.
Yeah,
it very much so does. It's just so easy to fall into patterns. You fall into the patterns of the group that you hang out with. You fall into patterns of accents and dress and the way people behave and think about things and the concepts that they adopt. And when you have like a real breakthrough psychedelic experience, it just makes all that seem so trivial. My DMT experience, my first 5-MeO experience, I've done both multiple times, but the first 5-MeO experience, I thought I fucked up. I thought it's over because there was a moment when you're entering into whatever that great white field of geometry is, where you go, oh my God, am I dying? Like it feels like there's no way I'm coming back from this. Like I've gone so far, and then that fear subsided once the experience just fully kicked in. Like the fear was at the doorway to the experience. Like, oh no, what have I done? And then you go into that. What the weirdest thing about 5-MeO, too, is the lack of visuals. Mm-hmm. It's just this great white pattern, this thing where you don't have any memory, you don't have any... You're barely a conscious entity, and you're experiencing what seems to be like the source code of the universe. Especially when you're young. I mean, think about how many people have had horrible, horrible acid trips, just taken way too much and tried to fight it and just been fucked up for days and weeks, and then you still feel slippery. Life feels weird even after those trips. I had a DMT trip one time that fucked me up for a couple weeks. Like for a couple weeks afterwards, I'd be driving my car and I'd be thinking, there's going to be a car that's going to launch itself off the fucking the oncoming lane and fly right into me. I was thinking, I had this image that was going to be upside down, and the car was going to hit the windshield.
Flying upside down,
flying upside down and just slant.
For weeks after this?
Yeah, weeks afterwards.
So that's why I'm scared of that shit.
It's because I tried to think about what was possibly happening. I think it dissolved my ego so much, and it made me think so much about how relatively unimportant every single person is in terms of the greater scheme of the universe, that whatever it did to me had broke down all my conceptions of myself, all my preconceived notions of myself so much that my ego was freaking out. So it tried to invent danger. So I would have to be more primal to defend your liver. Your body produces this intense psychedelic drug. Like you can have, when you eat weed and then close your eyes, you have some of the craziest fucking visuals that match up there. As long as you have enough, they go up right up to everything. They go right up to mushrooms. You can have like these mini DMT trips if you...
Oh, I smoked DMT with weed once.
Ooh.
It was insane.
Ooh.
How about that?
it changed my life.
When did you do
Did
this?
it really?
This is a couple years ago.
Oh.
And a good friend of mine, and I took one hit, and it was like 0 to 100. It was just like you exhaled and then you just take off. And I mean, I'd never smoked DMT before, and I'm very sensitive to weed. So I was high for like 2-3 hours. I was so, and at one point I was we were sitting on a balcony and I was watching the street, and it flipped into like negative, like a photograph, like the colors changed.
Wait a minute, this is like you smoked the DMT, and then how many minutes later is this happening?
This was in about 10 minutes.
Okay,
So
so
that
you
was
were
when it was
still-
most intense. Yeah.
So you kept your eyes open.
Oh, yeah. Should I
Whoa.
close my eyes?
Oh yeah.
Oh, tell me how to do it. I
well,
don't know.
you took. It sounds like you took a small dose. If you took one hit.
No, I took a couple hits.
You took a
but
couple
my
hits.
first hit, it was just like
So right
literally
away.
like it was like Star Wars when it just goes into warp speed.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy named Rick Strassman down at, I think he was at the University of Texas, and he did experimentation with DMT. And DMT, dimethyltryptamine, if I remember correctly, is the active ingredient in ayahuasca, and you produce it in your brain, and it's in plants. It's like a very common chemical. But DMT is a weird hallucinogen because it has an extraordinarily short mechanism of action. It's like, and people who take it report that they're blasted out of their body, like out of a cannon, and then they go out somewhere and encounter beings of various sorts, and then 10 minutes later they're back. And virtually everyone reports that, which is really strange. And
Yeah, they wanted me to see what they were doing. It's like, man, this is kind of, high risk.
Oh, that's so dumb. I did it with Doug Stanhope once, and he almost had a seizure. I was worried we're gonna lose him. He was making crazy noises. It was very strange. I've never seen anybody respond to DMT that way. It's like moaning, like.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah,
does he
like-
remember it?
Oh yeah, it was a positive experience overall. I just think that he was like hanging on in the beginning of it, maybe a little too much. If you try, like, it was a 5-MeO DMT experience. If you try to hang on, like you're not hanging on to that. It's gonna take you with it. Just relax.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what was going on. Maybe he was hanging on, but
Well-
he came out of it.
Mhm.
It was a positive experience.
Well, you can see videos of people flopping around on 5-methoxy DMT.
That way, because I say it that way too, and I know it sounds ridiculous. It's particularly to people that don't do psychedelics, opening a portal. I've thought about that a lot. I thought about that a lot about the DMT experience, because it seems so insane and so impossible that I just can't believe that this isn't just another place. It seems like it's not just a chemical reaction in my mind. It seems like I'm going to another place.
That's how it feels.
That's how it feels. But what does that mean by when I say that's how it feels? Because I don't have any understanding of what I'm experiencing it, what I'm experiencing rather. So I must put it in some sort of context where it makes sense to me as a person who lives on Earth, sitting here right now in 2022. There's all those variables that everything, when you look at the world, goes through all the filter of your own personal reality. The thing about a full-blown psychedelic experience like the DMT experience is it doesn't seem like any of that applies anymore. You go over there and it's like you're gone. There's no. So I was wondering about myself, like maybe I'm trying to put it into perspective, like it's another place, because places make sense to me. And what doesn't make sense to me is just full nothingness, chaos, wild imagery and geometry and things that move to music. And it's like almost like it's so hard for me to wrap my head around that I convince myself it's another dimension, but it's not.
Well, it could be.
Like, we've known those stories of the guys who did too much acid, never came back.
Right.
Those are classic stories.
They're true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's good to have a therapist too. Like, I was fortunate in that I was in psychoanalysis at the time, and so I could talk to my analyst about how horrible that 5-MeO, or it was a bad experience as opposed to yours, but it was quite unsettling, and it really helped to have somebody to get it off my chest with.
Did you feel like you were dead? Did you feel like when you did it, like you were gone?
No, I was stuck in this evil good loop, like good versus evil, and which was I going to choose?
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I couldn't decide, and I asked the sitter, what should I choose? And they said something like, "There's no need to choose, or they're both the same," or something unsatisfactory.
Oh God.
And I was pretty rattled for a couple.
Stop all that. Stop all that craziness. Whatever you're doing that's causing you anxiety, whatever you're doing that's causing you too much objective thinking, too much interviewing yourself and going over the thoughts and like, why am I doing that? Why am I still smoking? Why am I still eating shitty food? Just stop doing all that, because that's a mess. That's a mess. You don't need that. And it just made me look so foolish. But it's very different than DMT.
Yeah.
So those are the two experiences that I had. Then I had both of them. I only did the 5-MeO 3 times, but the regular DMT was about 5 or 6 more, because it was just the regular DMT was more interesting to me. I felt like whatever the 5-MeO had to say, I got it. I got it pretty quick. Not that I couldn't benefit from it, but didn't call me back.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, there it is, bitch. Take a look. You got it.
But so that was Saturday night. Sunday day, I wake up and I'm like, I'm starting to basically start having a reactivation, but like a flashback or whatever. So I go get coffee with a woman, and I'm basically like split between reality and this other thing.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's like, oh, this is bad.
Oh, no.
This is bad.
This is how many days after?
5 days. 6 days. By the way, like 70% of people have a reactivation when they smoke it, apparently, because I looked it up.
I've had it while having dreams.
Yeah.
I've had dreams where I thought that I was tripping, and then I did it. But it's not 5-MeO. Only the other one, only NN.
Yeah, I mean, again, so I don't know if I took too big. I only had one hit.
It's so strong. DMT, like itself, NN dimethyltryptamine is very potent, super potent. But 5-MeO is more potent. It's the most potent.
It was, to me, too potent.
No visuals. That's what's weird. You just go to white. It just whites out.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you see like a pixelation, or you see like living compounds of reality. Like you see you're in the middle of it, but you're one of it. It like breaks down. Whatever the fuck it means to be like an atom, it breaks
That
it
was
down
the experience I had. I'm like an amoeba.
Yeah.
I'm like not.
But you're not
and even
an amoeba.
I'm.
Amoeba's a single cell organism. That's pretty complex. You're not even that. You're like the energy of an amoeba.
Yes.
And you also the energy of a tree. You're the energy of the sky.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
I mean, so now I'm on Lafayette,
you're flying back and forth between.
And I'm like, and that Sunday and Monday, I had the thought, not only is this the worst day of my life, this is the worst day of a life. This is the worst day of anyone's life, because I couldn't.
You were driving?
No, I was walking to New York. So I'm like, and then plus I have this divergent vision.
Oh, that's right.
Which is, at one point I'm like, I don't understand reality, and I'm seeing 2 images. And I was literally like, this couldn't be fucking more hilarious.
They're connected?
No.
No way.
I don't. No, not even a little. And because this is too early into that. This is 6-7 months ago now. So now I don't. At one point, I literally have the thought like, I might be in God's imagination. I mean, I was fucking gone. Like, I had the thought I wouldn't wish this on Hitler. It was so.
Here.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you go back to reality after?
How do you go to Fear Factor after that? That was my problem. The first time I did
like,
it, I
wait,
was,
what am I doing here?
Ooh, I was like, holy schnitzel. This is, it was the first one. The first one I did was the 5-methoxy one. And 5-methoxy is much more reality dissolving. It's like you don't see anything. You don't get me in there. Sign me up.
So you would do a 30-minute one?
Yeah, dude. I did 5 of them the other day. I did one after the other.
Wow.
Yeah, we kept doing it.
Damn.
It was amazing. Yeah, you walk out of there, you feel better about life. You feel better about people. You feel sorry for like angry, shitty people. Instead of being mad back at them, you feel sorry for them.
And you're not concerned with any side effects?
No, none. There's none. I think the side effects that I had when I did it those years ago when I was talking to you about it, I think a lot of those side effects were based on where I was in my head at that time, that it was so obliterating. And then it took me a while to sort of come to grips with what I learned from that experience. But this experience, which is at least 2 years since my last one, this experience was only positive. There was nothing negative about it. It was like I was ready for this experience. Like instead of it like knocking me in the dirt, I had learned enough from my last one that I came into it with in a good place. Like you're always going to have like a certain amount of ridicule from them. Like you're always going to like it'll put a lot of your ideas and your like a lot of your like what you think is important in a perspective. So I think like that always happens because I think being a person, stopping at red lights, talking to people, dealing with customer service on the phone, like you develop just a certain pattern of behavior that you think is normal for existing in society, and that normalcy you carry around with you like a shield. And when you do DMT, they go, "Give me that." They throw it away. You're like, "You silly! Like look at all this," and they're showing you this insane fractal universe that you exist in, and it's only positive to me. But that's me. I wouldn't advise it. You know, like I said, I had that one weird trip that fucked me up for a couple weeks, and I'm pretty stable and sane in comparison to a lot of people that I know. So if you're not stable or not sane or you're having real problems, I wouldn't recommend you.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. No, I couldn't agree more about DMT and the opening that it can give. I mean, I had the great advantage of taking it for the first time with Terence McKenna, and he said, "Do you want to check this out?" And I said, "Okay." And
that's pretty cool on the resume, by the way. First time you did DMT, did it with Terence McKenna.
Yes, I won't say where or when because it could be put down on some record somewhere.
That's probably already there.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
For me, it corresponded in many ways with what people talk about near-death experiences, because I went out through light into a realm of great bliss and beauty, and then I came back, and it was like coming back from a million miles away and just coming back into my body and, as it were, being born again. It was very much like a death and rebirth experience for me, and was very, very transformative. Incidentally, I think, I've been trying to understand this American phenomenon of Southern Baptists. And one of the things that I think is the key to this is that I think when they talk about being born again, originally, baptism was just that. I mean, now you can get this through DMT in 5 minutes, but at the time of John the Baptist, you could get it in 5 minutes through being drowned. People were lining up on the bank of the Jordan. They go in. He holds them under. If he held them under just long enough, you could actually induce a near-death experience, life review, the drowning man sees his life pass before him, hold them under just long enough, and they'd have a near-death experience, almost guaranteed. I mean, occasionally he might have done it too long, but that was before litigation. He might have lost
before
a few.
Litigation. Yeah, that's a good theory, actually.
And then you see they come back and they say, "I've died. I've seen the."
Possibly.
I've never. Weirdly, my experience is very limited. I've only encountered it twice, and I've never had, I guess, what you call a breakthrough.
What have you had when you've done it?
It was like, the first time I didn't know what I was doing, and the bubbling, it was just like weird. Everything, just some weird associations that kind of freaked me out. And I thought, like, there's no way this is gonna be healthy. But then, the second time I got like this extreme. I don't know how to describe it other than to say it was an intense downward shift in gravity, what felt like gravity. Or, that crest at the top of the first hill on a roller coaster where everything just kind of...
Mm-hmm.
I felt like something was like pushing me down. And then, I'd read so much and researched so much. Most of my understanding came from reading and how that tied together with other experiences that I've had, or how that related to things that I've always been fascinated with or subscribe to, maybe on a personal notion, but it it felt like something putting you almost in a trance, you know. But I was still very much aware. I don't think I got a very strong dose.
Were you taking regular DMT or 5-MeO DMT?
The NN.
NN.
Yeah.
And so you didn't have any visuals?
Oh, I did. No, I had some visuals, but I wouldn't say that it was. It was probably as intense as the strongest psilocybin trip I've ever had. But I was still very much. I never lost cognitive thought. I was aware. I was in my body. I could open my eyes. I knew I was in the room.
Right.
I saw almost like these Easter Island head sort of things, sort of just kind of coming out of the void with chasers, and it felt like something. It was like the cusp of something, and it was kind of over. And the room definitely looked. There was a weird energy, like everything had this crystalline sort of melty effect. But I mean, it wasn't overwhelming. Certainly not anything like what they've described, like some of the research volunteers talked about.
The volunteer figure that out.
No, I've been fascinated by it ever since listening to you talk about it, and then watching your documentary on
DMT, the spirit molecule.
Molecule.
That was all based on Strassman's work.
Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I tried it one time, and it was unlike anything for the 10 minutes I've ever experienced in my entire life. And so it was. After that, I've obviously read all the stuff. Try to, what's interesting is I think no one will probably ever know
until you do it.
Or no, I just mean
what it is.
There's a phenomenon happening that we just as humans can't possibly understand.
Yeah,
and maybe we'll never understand in our lifetime.
Well, there's two different ways of looking at it. One is that it's a human neurochemistry, and that is a chemical that it's just producing these crazy visuals, and it's just all the meaning that you attach to it is just your own. And then the other way of looking at it is it's some sort of a chemical gateway into the afterlife, and that what you're seeing is like the souls of these people that have lived before and all the people that have ever lived, like a sea of souls. And I don't know who's right or who's wrong, but it's impossible to describe. Like you describe it, it's just like you're just throwing words around. It doesn't seem, because everybody wants to talk afterwards. Like, oh my God, did you see the dragon?
Right. I don't think that's been done.
That seems like a worthy study. Because if I've heard from more than one person, in fact, my friend Kyle Kingsbury and his wife had an ayahuasca experience where they both had a visualization of their child, and then when they got back, she was pregnant, and they wound up having this child from their visualization, from this experience. Obviously, they're very close, and they were together, and they probably communicated quite a bit. And I would just think it would be a really interesting experiment.
It would be very interesting. I mean, and that sort of points out there is, a realm of experience, a realm of knowing that these things give access to that's normally closed to us. I mean, that's kind of a trivial statement, of course. But then you get down to questions of how verifiable is that? How real is that? How, and people get, I don't know if the term is hung up, but they can get baffled when you start talking about, the reality of, say, the entities you encounter on DMT. I mean, this is some people I know are obsessed with trying to verify the reality of that.
I love edibles either. I much prefer mushrooms, acid. I did DMT recently. I studied partially using your documentary, so thank you.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It was very informative. I mean, because that's scary shit. You need to study.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you should take frivolously.
No, absolutely not. I had it sitting on my table, and I studied for like a good 2 months. Watched a lot of stuff on the internet, read a lot about it, talked to people who had done it.
What's crazy is it's a natural part of human neurochemistry. That exists, that your brain's making that stuff all the time, and then you can just extract it from 1,000 different plants, and then you take it, smoke it, and then you meet Jesus and aliens and everything.
Have you met Jesus / aliens?
You meet everything. You meet things that are changing. So whatever the fuck they were a second ago, they're not the same thing a second later. It's pretty fucking intense.
Is that why you're such a curious person, and you really try? Has psychedelics made you? Because some people, it really makes a positive shift in their consciousness and their curiosity. I've seen it happen, and sometimes it goes the other way. But or were you always that kind of person?
I was always curious, but it made my curiosity. It confirmed the need for it. Like that, when you do something like DMT, it is so profoundly bizarre that after it's over, you are so stunned at how few people know about this and how you didn't know about it until that happened and how you'll never be the same again.
Oh, you'll never be the
And
same. Have you done that with the songs?
Yeah. They're called Icaros, these South American Icaros. I've only done it one experience. We tripped several times during the night because it's only like a 15-minute experience. So we tripped like 4 or 5 times during the night to these songs, but they're incredible. And this songs, you know, they're recorded live.
As a guy who's been sober for 34 years, I'm listening to this like it's a vacation you took. And I'm like, I was like, that's so nice. I'm never gonna go to Bora Bora.
Goldthwait said to me last year, I've been sober for 33 years. I think I'm ready to start dating. I think he was wrong.
Oh, this is the songs. This is all recorded in the jungle while these people are just deep in the trance of the mother. And this guy will sing. This is just him starting it off and whistling. There's a bunch of them, but they're beautiful. I listen to them sometimes when I'm driving in my car and I can almost trip. Because I remember this experience of being on them.
Can I get copies of that?
Yeah, I'll get you a copy of it for sure. After I did it.
What my experience was that I got, a short glimpse that's sort of a user manual for the cosmos. And in there was the knowledge that reincarnation is real, that the Buddhists have it right, that after you die, you go to the Bardo for 49 days. Your soul is out there. You get a chance to kind of like assess the last life you led before you take another spin on the carousel. Learn what you can. Get rewarded for your good deeds, suffer for your sins, and then go back. And I believe it, but I also just like it. I just like it. It feels true to me in a way that like the evangelist or fundamentalist Christian idea of like you can just do a bunch of bad shit and then promise yourself to Jesus and have a clean slate. Fuck that. I'm not buying that. Yeah.
But
But karma and reincarnation, I'm buying it.
There's something there. I mean, it's fascinating that concept has existed for so long, and even the concept of heaven that existed for so long,
right?
And angels and souls and all those things. I think we have a very limited ability to grasp reality. And I think that limited ability is biological. It's kind of based upon our primate origins and what we are as a thing, as a biological entity. We have essentially the tools that we need in order to survive. And those tools are the ability to recognize danger and communicate and
fight it.
Right,
and you're
right.
just gone.
Yeah, but I was fucked up for a while.
Really?
But I was functional. I was real nervous and weirded out by things.
How long? How long?
Weeks, maybe months.
Why'd you do it 3 times in a day? Were you trying to do that on purpose, or were you just
I did
like
it.
bored?
The first time was light. I went in, but I didn't go in too deep.
Yeah.
But I saw the visuals, and I lay there, and I was like, I got to the door, and I could see through the windows of the house, but I didn't go inside. The second time, it just like opened up a fucking vortex and sucked me through to the center of the universe. And then it was really, really, really intense. And then I did it again after that. It's because I loved it, because it was so awesome. I wanted to do it.
Scope. I mean, I can't. Like, you said something one time, and I think we were sitting on stage, and about, we have no control over our journey through space as a planet.
Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting to me is we have absolutely no control. I mean, if this planet just dropped for some gravitational reason, there's nothing we could do.
What if it just started falling?
That's what I'm saying.
Just felt like there's a whole solar
like a
system,
comet.
everything's spinning, and our planet just drops.
What would we do? I mean, we're going, oh, fuck.
Get in my
Somebody
spaceship.
Somebody put something in my drink?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. Yeah, we're fleas.
Well, that's
fleas on a dog.
That's what cracks me up about people who are so full of themselves. I'm thinking, what are you fucking cocky for? We don't even know what we're doing here.
That's what they tell you when you do DMT. That's what those things are doing when they're giving you the finger. They're like, you fucking idiot.
Went to, which is before the Big Bang, is where I went. Whiteout, I don't know what I am. I don't know what breathing is. I don't know what direction is. I have zero orientation whatsoever. I don't know. I couldn't I like felt like I developed the first synapse. Like I'm nothing. And I mean, really scary. Obvious. I mean, it's one of these things where I'm there, but I'm not there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what am I that's thinking that I'm nothing? Clearly, I'm like you get into like sort of Sam Harris world of like,
yeah,
you know, and in that ceremony, so you start from the Big Bang, and then it felt like slowly my character, personality, traits, soul come back into me. And it was almost like I could pick what I literally said at one point, like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, it was like a negative or a gossipy thought or a petty thought came in. I was like, no, we're not doing that anymore. I mean, obviously I do, but I'm saying like, it felt like, oh, I'm getting to pick. That was just kind of how I explained.
After I saw you about a year ago, I think. I went from here to Mexico. I went to that Ibogaine clinic in Tijuana.
Oh, you did, huh?
Yeah.
How was that?
I didn't do the experience. I was just there.
Want to see what it was like?
Yeah, I was doing a podcast with the doctor who works there. And I met some people down there who had 5-MeO DMT, the cane toad or the toad thing. And I did that. That was really intense. I'd never done DMT before. I'd done ayahuasca, but never smoked DMT.
5-MeO is the really weird stuff because it's very empty. You go away, like you go to the center of the universe. You become everything.
I guess. Yeah.
How strong? I mean, how much of a dose did you get? Did you blast off?
I blasted off. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you feel like that? Like you were gone?
The first few minutes, or you know, who knows how many minutes or time, whatever. But the first period, there was that sort of ego dissolution where it's not me having this experience, it's just fucking experience.
Right.
You know?
The most bizarre things about the DMT state in particular, which is something that we know is produced endogenously in the human body, that you've been there before. Like when you get there, you're
what do
like,
you mean?
oh, I've been here before.
It seems familiar.
Oh, 100%. Like the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God. It's so mind-blowing, but also so familiar that you think, oh, I've been here before. And I think you're there all the time. I think you probably go there to some extent every night. The physical process of dying, like when people have near-death experiences, it sounds a lot like a psychedelic trip. Like a lot of these people that go to the light and then come back, like they die for like 30 seconds and then they come back and they have this crazy experience of interacting with beings and interacting with angels and interacting with devils and weird shit, man. And a lot of them have these weird stories. And they've tried to like map out what the fuck is happening with the human mind while that's going on, but it's just a lot of speculation in terms of like, they didn't even know like what part of the brain is producing this chemical. They knew it's produced by the liver, and I think it's produced by the lungs, but they think it's produced by the whole brain now. Isn't that what Strassman said the last time he was here? But your brain makes the most potent psychedelic drug known to man. That's one of the reasons why that stuff is such a short, the time that if you take DMT, your body brings it back to baseline very quickly.
Like how long?
You're blasted for 10, 15 minutes, and then you're back.
Huh.
And you're stone cold sober. And you were just in a...
So 350 micrograms is pretty good as well. And so I actually got administered Ibogaine, a bunch of it in plant form, and then also the LSD at the same time. And I could tell the differences between the drugs. I could tell coming up on the LSD and moving towards this kind of ego dissolution and opening up and different my emotions and how am I going to do this political work and who am I and am I qualified and all of this. And I sort of had a lot of experience with LSD. I'd never done Ibogaine before, and I was able to open up pretty well for the LSD. But then this sort of low guttural rumble started from the Ibogaine. The LSD peaks around 3 hours or so. and I could feel this ibogaine building and building and building. LSD is also very much in your head, very ethereal, more so than psilocybin mushrooms, which are more embodied. And so this ibogaine started coming up, this experience, and I started feeling like if I could just let go, if I could just fully have this experience, and if I didn't have these fears and anxieties, then I would be a better advocate, and that I needed to, and so much was at stake. But then I felt I couldn't let go because I was too scared, and then I would be hating myself. So I felt that there was this cycle of, oh, I'm not as good as I should be. I wish I could let go. I do have these emotions of fear. And then I would feel that and get nauseous, and then I would vomit. And then I would feel relief for like a minute or so. And then the swirl would begin, and each of them is like 15 or 20-minute cycles and stuff. And then I would get to this peak, and then I would vomit again, and over and over and over. And for a Jewish person, the imagery that I had was that I was being crucified on the cross of self-perfectionism. That I didn't want to be human in a way. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be more than I was. And that this idea that I was not perfect, it just was this connection between self-criticism and self-hatred. And I could see that. And it just made me sick, and I wished I could do more. But I couldn't get out of it. And I had like a 12-hour cycle of that over and over and over. I mean, I was like dry heaving. I had nothing left to throw up anymore. And I just so saw this connection between wanting to be perfect, not wanting to be human, being super self-critical, leading to self-hatred, and shutting myself down. And so at the end of that day, I was so exhausted. I called it transcendence through exhaustion. I just gave up. And I just beat myself up so much. I just gave up, and I had the most blissful night. It was so beautiful. It was like no struggle, completely open, everything. And I realized that what I needed to do was keep the self-criticism, because that is the drive for quality. You need access to the self-critical part of your mind.
Yeah.
But if it's connected to self-hatred, you don't listen as much, because then you're a bad person.
Right.
So I sort of severed the connection between self-criticism and self-hatred. I accepted myself as a flawed human being that had a lot of room to grow, and that I made friends in a way. I made an ally out of the self-critical part of my brain. And
tank centers. This is another thing that didn't exist in. I mean, most cities. It was really hard to find one.
Oh, if you have your own, you got to maintain the pH levels, and
mine has a full filtrate. I have a commercial level one.
Float Nashville.
Float Nashville. Bam, whoa, son, you're in. Hoop, hoop, hoop.
I'll work on buying a car first.
You don't. I mean, it's not expensive. I mean, you don't have to have one.
Right.
You go and rent one out. Just go and set an appointment.
I would love to try it. Yeah.
You should definitely try it. It's one of the most profound feelings of relaxation you'll ever feel in your life.
You have like a complete and total disassociation experience. You lose feeling of your body, right?
Yeah, you don't think you're there anymore. You think your mind has been released from your body, and your mind's flying through space, completely untethered from the body. You don't feel the water.
The only time I've ever experienced that, I never had any type of complete disassociation experiences, even on really high dosages of psilocybin. The one time what I would classify as the most psychedelic experience I've ever had was from a drug that's not even normally associated with the psychedelic family, which is dextromethorphan.
What is that?
DXM. It's a lot of kids like pound bottles of Robitussin to get, but I mean, by the time you consume enough DXM that's in the Robitussin, you're doing so much horrible shit.
So here's what's crazy. Like, that was Monday. Saturday night, Ryan Hamilton, great comedian, came to my show, and I'm walking home with him, and he grew up Mormon, and I'm talking to him like, oh yeah, and we've talked about religion before, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm like not, and I explained to him DMT, and this is Saturday night, and weird thing, like in bed that night, and I'm kind of explaining the DMT experience to him, like where I'm like, yeah, I was kind of near God, and I was the way I experienced it was like, I feel like I was 100 feet away from the central creation force of the universe.
Whoa.
And
like you could feel the warmth?
Here's the crazy part. It wasn't warm. There was no human interface. it was just it like presented as like a wall or something. But it was like it wasn't benevolent. It wasn't spiteful. It was just like, I created you and Saturn. You know, and by the way, I say I, but it's like, to me, it doesn't identify. It's not a man, woman. It's just a force.
You think it's a thing that it's a real things that they used to connect DMT with when they were first experimenting with it. They thought it was causes psychosis, and they thought maybe it exists in higher doses in people that are psychotic. That's one of the reasons why they're nutty. They're nutty because their brain is producing all these weird chemicals that have been shown to be produced by the body that also produce hallucinations. It might be. Did you see those Twitter images about that guy who has pineal cancer?
Yeah, we showed. Oh, yeah, we showed it on the last episode we did. Joe, one of your original DMT trips, you talked about how that you met some kind of like visual spirit or something like that, and he was telling you like 3,000 million times or whatever that was. Do you still
love you.
Talk to that exact same guy, or is there a new guy you got fired?
There's a part that you go to that's like the same place, and the part you go to is like these rotating columns that go on in infinity, and it's all like you're a part of like this. You see like the gears and the mechanisms of the universe, it feels like, and it's filled with entities. Like whatever this thing is, it's filled with like these conscious entities, where it feels like conscious entities. And sometimes they talk to you in English, and this last time they were talking to me in like a language that wasn't even real. Like they were talking to me in like they were saying words like they were saying like things that didn't make any sense and showing you things, and if you thought negative in any way, like they would go like this, like their finger would shake back and forth, no, and then if you calmed yourself and thought positive, that would calm down. But it was like letting you know every time you slipped into any sort of a negative.
I mean, with themselves, with what they know, like the example of the archaeologists or the psychedelic researchers back in the 80s. You know, if you wanted to kill your career, tell your supervisor you wanted to work on psychedelics. You were pretty much done. Or if you were an archaeologist and you said, but, you know, look, there's all this evidence for, you know, ancient civilizations. It's like, you want to be in this department, kid? You're out of here if you start talking about that. So science is dogma in a lot of ways, not always. But it's unfortunate that, you know, in order to save people's careers, in order to have a career in science, you have to make this sacrifice. You have to keep to yourself things you know to be true, you know, that you can't really talk about because your colleagues will look askance at you. And science is a very medieval institution in that respect. It's a lot like religion.
Yeah.
You know?
When you look at the DMT experience and you look at its effect on the human mind, how much of you subscribes to the idea that what we're looking at is some sort of a chemical gateway?
Chemical gateway to
what? Whatever it is. To whatever that DMT experience is. That this is something that your brain has the ability to travel to. But, I mean, since we know that the body does produce this, and we know that it's possible for people to... I mean, I've never done it, but I know that people who do Kundalini yoga have apparently reported trip-like experiences that are very similar to a real DMT flash. So the mind has this ability to do this on its own. What do you think that is that something worth considering? That this is some sort of a pathway to a nearby dimension, or to something that's around us all the time, but we just don't have access to with normal neurochemistry? One of the more bizarre things that comes out of psychedelic experience is contact with entities, contact with what seems to be some other form of consciousness. What do you think is going on with that?
That, I love your entity flashing across the ceiling.
Oh, that's a shooting star. I have to tell people about that, especially people that have had psychedelic experiences. They think they're having a flashback. Sorry, I didn't warn you.
Yeah, but what do I think? Certain compounds create it more than others. DMT,
yes,
much more. LSD doesn't really produce entities.
Right.
Strangely, it's. I think it's. Yeah.
But
Anyway.
psilocybin does.
Yeah, but that's got DMT in it.
Right.
Which LSD. That's why I love LSD. LSD, I think, is more like a flower opening up, i.e., it's more of yourself.
Right.
Whereas DMT, whether it's ayahuasca or psilocybin to a lesser degree, has this slightly boom, 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 slightly dominating sound, slightly. I don't really like the colours as much.
You don't?
Not quite. Those kind of mauves and browns, and I prefer the LSD colours.
You see mauves and browns when you do DMT?
Well, I'm not a DMT person. I mean, I've done it.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Because I've seen very bright, vivid colors. I've not seen mauves
Haven't
and browns.
you seen the darker colours? I find it slightly dark.
Really?
I mean,
Interesting.
I was once quite recently in a room of a session when people were doing it. There were only 10 people in the room. 3 of them were in a battleground. A poor boy had much too much and was screaming and yelling and getting burnt. And the person who looked after him was a very practiced person in these things. He then said to me, well, actually, I was in a massacre myself. And, you know,
a massacre?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he was,
Really?
while he looked after the person, but he's very well contained with his massacre, so he still managed to look after the young. But I actually thought, I don't really choose compounds which bring the tendency of those sort of experiences. But I know people have wonderful experiences. And
I've never had those negative experiences with tryptamine. It's
Interesting. So
produced during REM sleep. Well, it's in so many different plants. The reason why your gut produces this monoamine oxidase, or one of the reasons, it probably serves many purposes, but is that dimethyltryptamine is in a lot of different plants. So these plants that we eat would give us DMT. Like you would get high off of certain plants. Like it's in thousands of different plants. It's a lot. You could extract it from just regular grass. Like Phalaris grass has DMT in it, like a lot of it. And that's why certain sheep will eat grasses that have DMT in it, and they die like immediately. Like you'll find them like in the fields. They'll run across a patch of grass that has DMT, and they're bink, legs up, little feet twitching.
So, like, what might be toxic to a sheep, not so much to a human.
Not at all. Not at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, DMT is not toxic at all to humans, but to sheep, it just.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating stuff, man.
Kills them. Don't be a sheep within minutes. It's weird. It's the weirdest shit ever. And the weirdest aspect of it is while you're blown out in this intense psychedelic state, you immediately think, I'm here all the time. I've been here before.
Oh, is that right?
I know what this is. It's not unfamiliar. It's completely alien, but yet familiar at the same time. So Dodi, in all those ayahuasca experiences that he had, when he was talking about all these flashbacks and all this craziness, what happens is you open up this, it's a weird effect where if you do DMT and you have these powerful experiences, you open up this door. And I don't know what the chemical effect of it is or what the mechanism is, but something happens when you open up that door where you can open up that door again, even in a dream. And so the speculation is that what happens when people have like near-death experiences, when people have alien abduction experiences, when people have these crazy things they say happen to them, most likely what it is some sort of a weird endogenous dump of DMT. Like, you know how something can happen to you and you get this crazy adrenaline rush?
Yeah,
they believe that it's possible that something can happen to you and you get a crazy DMT rush. And that it's very difficult to access, but that it's a function of the brain.
And it's causing you to, for lack of a better word, yeah, I'm going to have to process for a while.
I went for years after one where I didn't want to go back.
Yeah. I went months recently.
It was so heavy that reality was, the way I described it was very slippery for like 2 weeks. Or everything seemed fake. Like driving cars, I was constantly worried about cars flying over from other lanes and smashing into my windshield. Like all this weird paranoid thoughts. Whereas when I logically and objectively feel like it's possible that it was the ego trying to regain control by like activating distress and like physical worry sort of intentions, like worry about strangers, worried about random crime or accidents or things along those lines. That it was like my brain was like, hey, the world's a hard fucking place. It's like the conservative right-wing aspect of.
There's 2 projects which are now underway. And one of them is at the University of California, San Diego. It was launched with a $1.5 million donation from philanthropist Eugene Jong. I've put a link to a story there from USCD about this research. But what he's doing is he's infusing psychedelic doses of intravenous DMT for 60 minutes. It's Dr. John Dean who's leading it. He's using fMRI to study the extended state DMT. He's looking at the entity phenomenon particularly. Vast number of people who've worked with DMT experience encounters with entities, and those entities communicate telepathically. Of course, the mainstream would say that's rubbish, it's just your brain on drugs. But it's a mystery, and they're going to decode these visual activities, and the creation of new extensive altered states research into human potential. What this boils down to, it's focused on measuring whether a person's consciousness can extend past the physical body during trance or hypnotic states. And of course, if that were to check out in these investigations, we're now looking at opportunities for people to volunteer for these projects and to report their experiences in detail. They're going to be having people on DMT in one country and at the same time simultaneously people on DMT in another country. This work is happening in Switzerland as well. And seeing if there's some kind of out-of-body element.
Old environment, you were with friends, you were...
Yeah. But one of the
were
things
you seated? Were you in nature? Were you...
Seated in the house. In my house.
Yeah,
I've
and you
done it in
took
other
how
people's
much?
houses. Well, you take 3 giant hits.
Who makes that stuff?
I can't tell you.
That's not something you can
they
buy.
They shut down your sci-fi show for talking about aliens.
No, that's right. DMT has some. There's some prejudice against it, and you can't get that at the drugstore.
It's in thousands of plants. It's literally in almost every plant in nature. In fact, one of the universities in Israel believes that it was responsible for the burning bush that Moses got the 10 Commandments from.
Yeah,
that they think that burning bush was actually the acacia tree, and the acacia tree is rich in DMT.
And it burst into flame, and he inhaled the vapor.
Exactly. They think
saw
that
God.
They think that this is just a problem with translation. Is that this idea of the burning bush? Like, oh, there was a burning bush. Well, maybe they figured out a way to extract the dimethyltryptamine from the acacia tree or this acacia bush as well, and that they took this small amount of dimethyltryptamine from this fire and inhaled it and had this profound religious experience like I've experienced, like many people who experience that have taken it. And I feel like maybe I was dying. It had made me feel like maybe I went somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you fucked up now. You went to a place where you're not even supposed to see this yet.
I haven't necessarily felt it that much myself either, other than I felt like I've forgotten that I'm a human that smoked DMT. I'm just like a different thing entirely.
To unpack this a little bit, though, for people that are like, these fucking hippies, what are they yapping about? The brain does produce endogenous psychedelic chemicals. It produces 5-methoxy-DMT, produces N-dimethyltryptamine, 2 super potent psychedelic drugs the brain produces, and we don't understand why. It's entirely possible that if the adult human brain produces it, that a baby's brain produces it as well.
Right.
So if it's in that womb state, which is in a lot of ways sort of like a sensory deprivation tank, but with, of course, the feeling and the cortisol effect of the mother and the oxytocin and all the different hormones and the responding directly to the stress of the mother. There's a lot going on with the body inside the body.
Right.
But we should assume that those brains are experiencing what we know to be possible in the human mind, which is psychedelic chemicals.
And I've seen actual dreams on DMT trips, like, a regular dream like you're used to having, which is unusual because that's nothing.
Have you done any of that?
I've never done DMT.
Oh,
no.
you son of a bitch. Why not? What are you doing? What are you wasting your time?
I know. I'm such a good boy.
But it's something that's in the brain. I mean, it's a natural product of human biology.
I mean, whether it's natural or not isn't the question. Just, if I'm going to have a career based on my brain, I want to be very careful to
not break it?
To not break it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of the most transient drugs ever observed in the body. Your body brings it back to baseline in like 15 minutes.
Okay, is that, because I mean, there's a lot of, I do think there's like tons of people very often greatly overestimate the risks of non-legal drugs, like MDMA is like super safe and so on.
Overestimate the risks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's
of
like
MDMA. Yeah.
Yeah.
MDMA is weird, right? That's a weird one. It's not a natural drug. Dimethyltryptamine, I think the real concern would be psychological, because what you face is so bizarre. Terrence McKenna had the best quote about it. I think he said that you would risk death by astonishment. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Well,
it's so bizarre that it's almost a sin for a guy as smart as you to not experience it. But you just come right back, and you even when you're there, you're there. I mean, it's you. It's not like your consciousness dissolves into some bizarre quasi living state, and then you have to like work your way back to being you again.
Yeah.
No, you're you. You're Will McCaskill in the dimension, whatever the fuck it is. But what's crazy about it is that this is produced in the very area where Descartes was believing the seat of the soul is, and so many different Eastern religions and all this psychological, like all these different religions and all these different cultures, they were all convinced that one gland had some massive significance in terms of the spirit and the soul, whatever that on the internet.
I promise I won't bring any crank.
Well, DMT is one of the weirdest ones too, because you could never be tested for it. I mean,
really?
They would have to catch
I've never had
full blown
that kind of an experience with anything. I've done mushrooms before, and I laughed a lot. I've done acid. I didn't really see anything, but I'm very fascinated with like the peyote kind of experience and all that. And I've never had it. Sturgill's like, you gotta try it, dude. He's like,
DMT is mushrooms times 1,000,000 plus aliens. That's what it is.
What's the deal with the aliens with DMT?
Well, there's something that happens when you take DMT where you pass through visually or spiritually, whether it's real
like dimensions.
You pass through into some new space, and when you're in some new space, what's weird about DMT?
Is this all in your head with your eyes shut, or
yes, your eyes are shut. But if you open your eyes, you're going to see some crazy shit too. You'll see some crazy shit, though, that's also... You're better off keeping your eyes closed, though, because then you'll get sort of a full representation of what's going on and what you're seeing. When your eyes are open, your eyes are taking in the physical world, like what you're seeing in front of you, and you're trying to combine the two of them, and it's very baffling and confusing.
Better to just shut your eyes.
Silent darkness. Close your eyes, take it, and then just close your eyes and lay back, and you go on the craziest trip. It's impossible for anything to be stronger. It's impossible for anything to be a more potent hallucination, because it seems more real than reality itself. Like once you do DMT, the weirdest thing about it is coming back. Like regular reality is so dry and dull. It's like that's more real. Like it's more, you feel it. You also feel, if this makes any sense, you feel the experience in your essence, in your essence as a human being,
and it sticks with you after.
Fuck, man, I've had trips that stuck with me for 5 or 6 years, where every day I would think about that trip for 5.
It's really beautiful, and I think whenever I take a DMT trip, because my tendency is for my attention to go to the grief, for my attention to go to the, oh God, I don't want to die, and I don't want to lose anybody else, and I can't believe how many people are going to die, and everyone's going to... That my attention habitually goes to there. But whenever you like smoke DMT, one thing that I've noticed when I've done it, outside of whatever the statute of limitations is that you're immediately given this view of one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen in your life, and there appears
the most beautiful,
perhaps the most beautiful. And there's sentience to it. It's alive. However, for whatever reason, it does not feel like it's coming from you. It feels like it's outside. The thing's alive. And you're like somebody who just had a hard day at work and just walked into the ultimate surprise party, where everyone's like, hey! And it's like, oh God, it's beautiful, but I'm so fucking tired. And oh, I'm so sad. And oh, I feel like shit. And it's like the message it gives you is, right, see? You are clinging to this identity of the sad, tired, unhappy person. But if you just let go for a second, you're going to have a really good time at this party.
She
Yeah, but
saw
like,
the evidence.
Like when you try DMT, you know already what that is. It doesn't just hit you. You're like, what the fuck? And your mind just explodes. You know you're taking something, so you can make reason of it. I could totally see like, well, what was it? That must be God. And let me tell other people about this.
Well, you know,
I could
that's
totally
what,
see that as
there's
a way to start
scholars
it.
in Jerusalem, legitimate scholars now, that believe that that's what Moses saw when he saw the burning bush.
What?
That he saw the acacia tree. The acacia tree, which is rich in DMT, and it's really common to that area.
Oh, that really? Makes a lot of
The idea
sense.
is that this bush, or the extraction of this bush, was burning, and that's how he had this religious experience.
Yeah.
He saw God.
It's real
He
dry
had
there.
a DMT trip. And this is like, this is
Makes
not.
a lot of sense. They caught a puff of this tree like on fire?
That's one of the theories.
Wow, I could
but
see that.
That's just a theory.
Yeah.
But the primary focus of achieving this theory is that Moses most likely had a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
Because we know that these substances
Yeah,
are not
and-
new. About psychedelic experiences?
Oh, yes, I've taken acid and psilocybin and mescaline. Yeah.
Have you ever had any some sort of encounters while on psilocybin? One of the things that makes me more open to the idea of extraterrestrials is some of the experiences that I've had on tryptamines. You know, particularly dimethyltryptamine, but also psilocybin is.
That's way. DMT goes way back for me. That goes back to high school. How long back is that?
What do you mean?
The DMT, yeah. I mean,
last time it was a year and a half ago.
In a controlled situation.
Yeah.
Tell me
well,
about your experience.
pretty controlled.
I'd be interested to know. It's kind of a little speedy.
That's a DMT tattoo. That's a DMT molecule.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've had a bunch of them.
It's healing for mental health. They're finding that it has a great effect as a palliative.
Profound alleviation of anxiety.
There you go,
Because
yeah.
it transforms your perception of where you stand in the world, and it's an absolute ego dissolver. You are confronted with experiences that defy logic. And one of the things that this is interesting. One of the things that shied me away from UFOs was DMT.
Because
it was so profound. It was so crazy that if a UFO landed right in front of my house, I'd be like, yeah, it's not DMT though. Because DMT was a completely different dimension, and there were things there. Then one of the things that's
you were in a control
imaginable, I guess. Stanhope did that 5-MeO DMT back when you could buy it online.
Yeah.
And he did it at my place. We did it together, but he had never done it before. I had done it a few times when he and I did it, and he did it, and I've never seen anybody get hit by it harder. Like he was like slumped on my couch, and he was groaning like. It was disturbing. It was so extreme that I was wondering, like I knew that this is like something that the human body makes. I knew that it's one of the most transient drugs ever observed in the body. Your body brings it back to baseline really quickly.
But not at that dosage.
But I don't know how much he didn't take that much. He didn't take any more than I took. But it hit him like a goddamn Mack truck. And he came out of it and he just kept saying, life just becomes life, and then eats life and becomes life, and just life just becomes life, and it just goes on. It just goes on.
Yeah,
it just goes on.
There's no denying that.
And he's just looking at me like, "Wow." I go, "You tripped your balls off." Son.
What's your alternative? Louis said this to me. He said it just goes black one day.
Well, he doesn't know that.
That can't be the alternative.
He doesn't know that. Not only that, there's a lot of evidence that's not the case. There's
Preach, I want to hear this.
Well, first of all, there's bizarre chemical doorways in your brain. Your brain produces psychedelic chemicals that we don't understand. And there's a study right now. One of the things that Graham Hancock was talking to me about recently was that there's a study that's going on.
Graham Hancock has a great thing on fucking Netflix.
Oh, it's amazing.
He's a guy that I heard his name a bunch because of you. Didn't know what the fuck he did.
Yeah.
Like I knew he was a thing, but I didn't know he was a thing.
I keep fucking up the name, but it's Ancient Apocalypse, right? Yeah, Ancient Apocalypse.
Fucking,
it's very good.
It's really good.
But this is the culmination of Graham's life work. I mean, I found out about his original book, Fingerprints of the Gods, in the 90s. And I remember reading it, and people were like ridiculing it, saying, oh, that's preposterous. That's pseudoscience. Everything in that book has now been proven to be true. All of it, all of his hypothesis, and now it's correlated with data that shows about these asteroid impacts. And so Randall Carlson and him teaming together. So Randall's an expert on these comet impacts and the impact that it had in the Younger Dryas impact theory. And then Graham is an expert on these ancient civilizations. And so the two of them together have put together this very, very fascinating timeline of the rebirth of human civilization, which is around 11,800 years ago, that we got fucking rocked and it reset the earth. But he was talking about this, and he was talking about on the last podcast we did. He was talking about these studies that they're doing out of a university in England, where they're doing a slow drip DMT experience with these people, and because they're doing it for hours and hours, they do a slow drip where they keep them in this state, which is normally a very transient state.
Well, because you hit it with a fucking pipe.
Yeah.
Normally.
Yeah, normally.
So there's no regulating how much you get.
Right. So this, because it's an IV, because it's coming in a drip, it's like constant and continuous. And these people are going to the same place and they're having repeatable experiences. So instead of having like a 15-minute DMT trip, which is a lot of people have, that's like overwhelming, you can't even figure out what's going on, and then it's over. Instead of that, you're going to the exact same place over and over and over again and getting more and more comfortable with it and coming back with very similar stories.
Really?
So, yeah, it's a repeatable environment where they're encountering entities and they're trying to map it. So these people are doing these long-term studies with long-term experiments, meaning like not a 15-minute term, but like not a 15-minute trip, but multiple hours at a time. And they're coming back with like a map of the territory. So this is the concept. The theory that many people have is that death opens up a chemical gateway in the mind. And that chemical gateway takes whatever the soul is, whatever consciousness is, and transports it into this new realm. It allows you, your conscious mind, to access this new realm, which is available to you upon death. Everybody has
Isn't it wild when they go to Sonora Desert when they find these toads?
Yeah. Yeah, I've never experienced it from the toad. I've only
watched
experienced
it on television.
With the way they extract it.
Yeah, they grab him and they squeeze it. They bust his pimples and they bust it on the glass or mirror and then they take it off and they let it harden.
Yeah, they let it dry in the sun. They scrape it off with a razor blade.
Yes.
I've only had it synthetically made in a laboratory. You used to be able to buy it online. You used to be able to buy like a fucking can of it, like this big, enough to get like a whole state high. You just buy it online. It was totally legal.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's bizarre that it's illegal.
Well, they would say not for human consumption. But I don't know what the fuck you're doing with it if you're not using it for human consumption. But you used to be able to buy it.
I've never felt anything like that before.
No, nothing like that.
Makes me not want to do anything. Nothing else can supersede that.
How long ago did it happen?
I don't know, around 2 months ago.
Yeah. Did you write down what happened after it happened, or did you record it?
No, I wish I did.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Yeah, me too. If like it goes away like a dream, right?
It comes off, you're so scared. It starts off like this to me, like, no, yeah! That's how I started. No, I don't want to be this. I said, hey, I want this to stop now. And the guy was like, hey, you're on the ride. And I'm like, no, yeah! I love it. Yeah. I love you.
Yeah, you love everybody.
Yeah, so spazzed out.
Yeah. Did you have a hard time letting go?
At the beginning, I was fighting it. I was saying, stop. I wanted to stop now. Just jump. Stop this shit now. Stop. And the guy was like, hey, the show was like, I can't do it. You got to go for the ride, dude. And it was like, oh, man. It's like I'm dying. Things are going on my face. I'm seeing the Aztec things. I'm seeing the toads. I'm just seeing weird animals and things. They're just flying. It's like another chamber. It's boom, flat.
The red laser effect.
Yes. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just found out about it a couple of days ago.
And you just found out about it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I just found out about it a couple of days ago.
Yeah. A friend is putting together a piece on that phenomenon, and he wanted my opinion.
Could you explain it to people, what they're experiencing?
Well, I think what happens, and this is just a very cursory assessment of the project, but people smoke DMT, and then they project this white or they project a red laser onto the wall. And if you look very carefully at it, from what I understand, you can see the matrix.
You see code in the laser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we take a bit?
Oh, you're back. Oh, you're back. It's weird that they communicate with you, and sometimes in sentences and words you've heard before.
Yeah, it might be a delay in your inner conscious. You know how you can, like, if you listen to your inner conscious talking, and imagine the drug just slows down your ability to receive your inner conscious voice.
It could.
And so it sounds like it's somebody else, but it's really yourself in your inner conscious talking to yourself.
It could be. Yeah, it could
You know what I mean?
be. It could be a lot of different things for sure. You know, I think one of the first DMT trips that I had, one of the weirdest feelings about it all was that the idea of being connected to everything sounds like such fucking hippie bullshit. It sounds like nonsense. You know, say we are here, but we are connected to everything. I'm not feeling that. You know, I know that might be real, but for whatever reason, I don't really feel that. I don't feel the subatomic particles. I don't feel the atom. I don't feel the cell. I just feel me. And I know that I'm breathing air, but I don't feel the fact that the air is connected to all these. It's all a soup of things.
Yeah.
But when you have the DMT experience, one of the things that it does is it strips whatever you're experiencing while you're tripping your balls off. It strips away the physical presence of things. And it's almost like the world of, you know, here's the ground and here's the air and here's a tree and here's a building. That world is replaced by a world where nothing has any matter.
Yeah.
Nothing has any physical matter, but everything is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere, and you're in the middle of it, and there's no ends, and there's no beginning, there's no roof, there's no floor. It's just one thing. It's all a part of one thing, and you're in there scrambling, trying to make sense of it, and these things come out of nowhere that are essentially constantly changing as you're watching them, so you're not even sure what the fuck it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it might be your own mind. It might be your own mind trying to make sense of the whole thing, and they're trying to give you information. One of the things they try to tell you is to try to stop, don't freak out, and try to suck it all in. Try to take in as much as you can, because you know this is crazy. And if they tell you they love you too, that's like, it's always a big thing. Like, love you, like the one experiences that I had, they sang to me like a child. They had this song, I love you 600,500,000 times, which is like how a kid would say something. And then they would go, look at this, and then they would show me something.
Into another dimension. I really do. I know that sounds completely insane, especially from the host of Fear Factor.
Right.
But I think it's in your mind. I mean, they know that your brain produces those chemicals. Why would your brain produce chemicals that let you interact with beings in other dimensions that are giving you wisdom? Why? Why would that be something your brain makes? I don't know. But the speculation is that your brain makes it when it thinks it's going to die, and that when you interact with that dimension, that's your spirit, that's your soul, that's what the essence of you, not your physical being and your life experiences and your memories. That's a very popular drug.
Well, back to the Krishnas, that's what Prabhupada was preaching, and a lot of his early devotees were people that had taken a lot of acid or mescaline, right, or peyote, and felt like they were getting glimpses of something, but they couldn't understand it. And he's like, let me show you how to get there, right, without the drugs,
right. And what was Prabhupada using to try to get there?
Meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, just deep meditation.
Yeah, I think there's
chanting of like ancient sacred mantras and meditation. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing that happens with DMT rituals, that they play Icaros, these ancient South American songs that sort of, you know, enhance the experience. Like when you do DMT with Icaros playing, the DMT dances to the sound, and it's very strange to watch. It's beautiful, bizarre, and you know, it's overwhelming. Like you can't, it's hard to believe that it's really happening while it's happening, and you know, you got to kind of let go and just like let it happen and experience it, because you're so blown away by it all. It's hard to just not just go, what the fuck, like every 5 seconds. So unbelievably intense.
Have you ever had a negative experience?
No, not on DMT, no. I've had negative experiences in that DMT has sort of exposed that I was maybe a little out of control in my life, like maybe too stressed out, or maybe taking too much time, devoting too much time to work and bullshit related things. It really didn't matter in the long. Like the negative aspect was after it was over, it was like, hey, I need to just fucking chill out. Like I need to just smell the daisies. I need to just enjoy this experience, and just not
15 minutes. Huh?
Yeah, but I've never had a negative experience in that. Like while I was in it, I was like, this is negative, but I've seen it. I've seen people freak out.
You have? Have you been with someone that freaked out?
Yeah, my friend Eddie freaked the fuck out the first time he did it, but I think it was because he was trying to control it. You can't control it.
You can't.
You can't like say, I'm going to pull myself out of this and sober up. Good luck. You have to give in. You get through that shit.
We'll
get
deal
through
with
it,
it.
and you learn.
That's
you
well
learn
put.
when you hit the other side.
You learn when you hit the other side. Well, that's interesting. Well, we talked about ayahuasca and DMT, which as Eric Davis says, baseline reality dissolves. There is a complete ego death, and a new reality emerges.
Or it just fucks with your visual cortex, and you add it all with your ego and your psyche and your creativity. And you have the ability to generate images inside the mind's eye with your creativity, and you just create a fucking world of geometric patterns, because that's how your eyeball works when it's over flooded with too much DMT. That's how your visual cortex responds.
That's what happens
when there's 10 times the normal dose in. Maybe that too.
Just like when you have a cut, it clots.
Yeah, but
It's just how it responds to that.
This is what I always say when people say, "How do you know whether or not a DMT trip is real?" Like, what like you're pretending like that really happened. You really did speak with intelligent beings from the planet.
Yeah.
The reality is, whether or not you really did go to another dimension and speak with these super intelligent beings who are made out of love, or whether it didn't happen at all, either way, you experience the same thing.
Right.
Sure.
You get to hear the message.
You get to see the exact
No
same
matter if
thing
it's
as
made
if it was real.
Yes.
It's to be a human being.
Well, which would be non-material. The DMT world is non-material.
Right.
It's visual. So we might just transcend into some, like I think everybody, in this kind of scenario, everybody would drop dead.
But isn't it more than visual? It's visual in the sense that you experience it with your eyes, but your brain is experiencing something too. You just don't know what to do with it. You don't know where it goes. So you say it's visual. I'm seeing it. But you're not just seeing it. You're experiencing it.
Well, I think it's a world made of light. I think that's the way, and we perceive light through the eyes. It's visually, experienced. Perceived.
Right, but whenever you're having a visual with your eyes closed, it's tough to call it a visual. I mean, obviously, it's interacting with that part of your brain.
Right. Well, you call it that after the fact.
Yeah,
after you come down, when you're drinking
right?
your Coke.
But have you ever opened your eyes on DMT? There was this video I was watching the other day online where these people, they put them on DMT.
But neural transduction, that's not one of these placeholders. It's something that we can test. And look at the fascination that's been now for decades with DMT. What the heck is that? And why is it produced by so many different plants and animals? And why does it produce in people a most extraordinary experience? I haven't tried it, but I certainly know people who have. In fact, I said that I was giving a spiel like this to some of my staff, and one woman immediately said, "Oh, well, it changed my life." I go, "You tried DMT?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "The problem was that I did it twice, and I didn't need to do it twice because it completely changed my life the first time." And then another woman was sitting there, she goes, "Well, I did too." And she said the same thing. She said that the reality that she experienced on DMT was much realer than the reality she experiences in our life.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Has that been your experience as well?
That's so familiar.
Yeah. I think woman described it in the DMT, but the Spirit Molecule book, Dr. Rick Strassman, she said it feels like a waiting room between death and birth. Wow. Which I thought was kind of an interesting perspective.
Wow.
I remember my latest psychedelic trip that it was just like that, where I'm like, I've been here before. Why can't I remember this? It seems like I do that a lot. Like go to the same place so many times.
Yeah, well,
that could just be a part of your brain.
It could. Well, it's so close to normal human neurochemistry. The most profound ones, they're so close to normal shit your brain produces. Like mushrooms and DMT are like very closely combined. They're very closely related chemically, and DMT is produced by your brain. So all of those experiences are just, they know exactly where to hit in your mind to produce this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't think that that's a coincidence. I can't
No.
think that,
like
the movie, yeah. Well, what ayahuasca is an orally active form of DMT. So because DMT, when you smoke it, it goes directly into your blood supply. But DMT is in so many different plants that if you got it from eating it, you would be tripping your balls out every time you have a salad.
Yeah.
Because grass has it in it. A lot of thousands of different plants have it in it.
Wow.
So because of that, your body produces chemicals that mitigate that. And one of them is called monoamine oxidase. And monoamine oxidase is produced in your gut. So when the Amazon shamans figure out how to give people DMT today, in United States and modern chemical world, there's scientists that have figured out how to synthesize pure DMT. So they take it from plants or from various chemicals, and they synthesize pure DMT. You smoke it, it goes right in your bloodstream. It's pure DMT. But you can't do that in the Amazon. So what they figured out how to do is make an orally active version of it. Right. So what it is they combine the leaves of one plant with the roots of another, and one of them being harmine, which is a natural MAO inhibitor. So it's a monoamine oxidase inhibitor that they mix in. Wow. So it's like a DMT trip, but it's not quite as intense. It's a slow release, longer version that's very hallucinogenic and very spiritual in a lot of ways, but I've only done the big one. The big one is the smoking DMT is you get shot through a cannon to the center of the fuck.
That's interesting. Yeah. What's the number one thing that if you had to do it again, you would approach with more caution? Is there any one psychedelic experience that really threw you for a loop?
I mean, yeah, many have, but I think drugs there certainly are drugs that are more friendly than others, and I think 5-MeO-DMT would be an example of something that has the capacity to be extremely unpleasant if you take it under the wrong circumstances.
I had a friend completely flip out taking it because he had eaten, and so he had to throw up, and he got up to throw up, and he got to the sink just in time to throw up, but then he was just going crazy, talking about rape, talking about all kinds of crazy shit, took his shirt off.
Yeah. No, I had a friend lose consciousness and start vomiting and look as if they had died. I had a friend read about
my friend Doug Stanhope, the comedian. I thought we lost him.
Like DMT or mushrooms, psilocybin. One of the really fascinating things is they mimic neurochemistry. Like DMT is in the brain, and it's in all the organs, and it's a part of natural human neurochemistry.
Well, except of course, so is fentanyl. So
fentanyl is a part of the
human
neurochemistry?
You have receptors for it. So
right, but DMT is produced by the human body. It's actually a thing that the body makes. Right. And we don't know why. Right. And the really heavy duty psychedelic people think that in large doses, when you take it and have these breakthrough experiences, what you're doing is you're going through some sort of chemical portal. And this chemical portal is only available to people in these near-death experiences under extreme moments of stress, where they have like these moments where they go through the tunnel and the bright light and they meet God.
I mean, how many of these would I have to see to be convinced that it's a reliable consequence of it?
I think you would have to do it.
Yeah,
I think it's what this conversation is like talking to a person who's lived in an underground tunnel their whole life, who's dismissing sunlight. They're like, what's the big deal with sunlight? I'm fine down here with light bulbs and you and your sunlight. Oh, yeah, photosynthesis. Woo-hoo. I've got hydroponics.
So you're being...
They do. One of the more interesting stories out of the last decade or so was this story that I read about these scholars in Jerusalem that were connecting the story of Moses and the burning bush to the acacia bush and the acacia tree, which is rich in DMT. And they believe that, when you're talking about a story that was told through oral traditions for who knows how many years, and then written down in ancient Hebrew, and then transcribed and, and translated to Greek and Latin and all these, there's a lot lost in the mix. And they believed that what that story might have been about, of Moses coming down from Mount Sinai with the tablets and having the experience with meeting God in a burning bush, that what this is in fact was a dimethyltryptamine experience.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's a big maybe.
It's a big maybe. I can say that if you go to the south of Mexico in Chiapas, there's a tree that grows there as a weed called Mimosa hostilis. Maybe you're familiar with it. And this is so abundant that it's used to make fence posts. All the fences on the side of the road are made of Mimosa hostilis. It's used as firewood to cook meals. The air smells like DMT because people are using it as fuel all over.
It's interesting. And
Joe, what was your experience of God when you were, using those substances?
I mean, I'm kind of joking around when I said it's God. What it seems like is the root of everything. Like when you have these experiences, they're so profound and so transformatory. They're so transformational. They have this impact on you where you enter into a realm of the impossible, and it's so easy to get to. It just doesn't take that long, and then all of a sudden you're there, especially through things like dimethyltryptamine, which is also endogenous in the human brain. If you can take that, you will be transported into a realm of impossible beauty, of geometric patterns that move and dance in front of you, and you're confronted with some sort of intelligence. Some sort of intelligence that's beyond anything you could possibly comprehend in our material realm. I don't know what it is. No one knows what it is. People have, they think it's a well of souls. They think it's an encounter with God. They think it's aliens. They think it's somebody in the pineal gland. This is a new study that was done. I think this research was published over the last 5 or 6 years. So because of the fact that they know that now, they're assuming that human beings also produce it in the pineal gland, which would, it kind of sort of verifies what everybody always thought the pineal gland is. They would call it the seat of the soul, that this is where your journey to the afterlife begins in the pineal gland, and that this chemical gateway opens up and your soul passes through to the great beyond.
But can it be like a bad trip on the way out? Oh fuck!
Yes,
that's terrible.
Yes. I've been with people who've had bad DMT trips. I was at Stanhope. I got Stanhope high on DMT, and I thought he was dying. He's at my house, and he's moaning and foaming at the mouth. He's like, I'd never seen anybody do that before. I'd see a bunch of people. Most people smoke DMT. They do this. They smoke it, and they just go. And they lay back, and then this overwhelming experience happens to them for like 15 minutes, and then they come back.
That's it.
And they come back. Yeah, they don't move. They just.
It's not hours.
No. It's a quick.
Many interesting people. One of the most interesting in the first conference was a gentleman named Stephen Zara, a Hungarian chemist and psychiatrist and pharmacologist, and he originally worked in Budapest, and eventually he moved to the States and became pretty high up in the National Institutes of Health. He was the director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse in the late 50s. But the interesting thing is, before that, he was just a researcher at a hospital in Budapest. He applied to Sandoz to get LSD. He wanted to do research with LSD. They refused to give it to him because he was behind the Iron Curtain. So he synthesized DMT, being a chemist, and he had to determine if it was actually a psychedelic. So in the grand tradition, he did that by self-injecting himself. So he's a true pioneer, and I invited him to the conference. So he's the first person to definitively show that DMT was a psychedelic. He's now 95. He's in great shape. I invited him to the conference, but he said, well, I'm 95. I don't go anywhere anymore. But he submitted a very nice video introduction to it. And the other interesting thing that he did after the 67 conference, he was thinking, well, what's going on? And what is it with the hippies and all the psychedelics? And so his supervisor said, well, Steve, why don't you go over to Haight-Ashbury and hang out for a while? So he did, and he submitted a paper called The Scientist Among the Hippies. And they wouldn't let him publish. They said, you can't publish this. So it sat in his drawer for 50 years. When this book came along, he said, I have something I'll submit here. I don't care if they, it doesn't matter anymore. So one of the papers in this second volume is
hidden accounts. And Rick Strassman, have you ever had him on your show?
Rick got sick. He was supposed to be here a couple of times. We're trying to reschedule it now.
Yeah.
But he had some pretty serious health issues.
I know.
And we had a date scheduled out, but I love that guy. I've had a chance to sit down with him a couple of times and talk to him.
And of course, you presented DMT, the spirit molecule.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And he's so important to me because I remember when I did it, I was so confused. I mean, to me, it was like my first DMT experience changed everything I thought about the world.
Yeah.
And I immediately didn't give a shit about aliens anymore.
Right.
Like, it was almost instantaneous. Like,
Yes.
before then, I was like, Roswell, they got the ship, man.
Yeah.
It's in a hangar. But what I encountered doing DMT was so spectacularly alien
Yes.
that the pedestrian concept of something that looks like a person but has a bigger head and large eyes.
And higher tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was weird and cool as it would be if it was real. It was nothing. I mean, literally not 1/1,000,000th as interesting as what you absolutely can encounter when you do DMT.
Yeah,
Like, that's the aliens.
So that's the aliens, an utterly alien realm filled with alien intelligences who communicate. And of course, again, the skeptics say, oh, it's all just made up in your brain. But we don't know that. And
We
Rick
don't
is
know
open
that.
to the possibility that we are dealing with areas of reality that are not normally accessible to our senses and that become accessible to our senses by retuning the receiver wavelength of the brain, which is what he suggests DMT does. And I think that's very plausible. And at the very least, those who are interested in UFOs and aliens should be also investigating this line of inquiry. Can we use changes in consciousness to understand the majestic complexity of the universe in which we live? And I think the answer is definitely yes. And many of Rick's volunteers, I paraphrase, but they came back with reports that the entities who'd encountered them said, "We're so glad you've discovered this technology. Now we can communicate with you much more easily." It's fascinating. So there's a technology for encountering other intelligences. And against that, this mechanistic, simplistic alien meme that's going around now that they're a bit like us, but they came here in higher tech, it's dull.
I feel like if we just ate a fucking handful of mushrooms, we could have the same psychedelic trip.
DMT is mushrooms times 1,000,000 plus aliens.
Huh.
That's the way I describe it. I've done mushrooms, and mushrooms are awesome. You got to take a shitload of mushrooms, and you have an amazing trip. But there's something about DMT that just blows all the other ones out of the water. It's the most potent of all psychedelics.
Okay.
It's pretty wacky. The União de Vegetal, they might have the right idea. That might be the only way to do it.
Well, the part about it that's really good is that while they have their dogma and their traditions, it's about the experience.
Right.
It's about the individual experience for yourself.
Rick Strassman did it with them. He told me it was very strange. He said it's really strong. He's like, they do really strong ayahuasca, and they sing songs about Jesus. And I was like, whoa, Daddy. What is that like? And he's like, it's a trip.
Yeah. I think you have to have a generous spirit in a way. Like, okay, it's Jesus, but it's about reverence, and then you kind of generalize in your own.
We were
mind.
talking about this the other day, and tell me if this makes any sense to you. If you have this idea when you go, like, when you take, I've never done ayahuasca, but I've done DMT on multiple occasions, right? So I've had this psychedelic effect, the most potent version of that, right? I would wonder if you went in with the intention and had these experiences with the intention to communicate with some benevolent deity that you believe is responsible for all life and all love on the planet. If you kept thinking of that as you entered into this dimethyltryptamine state of consciousness, isn't it possible that a vast majority of what is happening when you are having a psychedelic trip is the word hallucination is very strange, because what the hallucination implies is in this world, while we're sitting right here with tables and chairs and rooms, you could see it, but it could not be real. The problem with that is, like, what are you seeing? And why can't other people see? Can other people see it too? Well, if other people could see it, then it's not a hallucination, right? So it's how do you know what other people are seeing? We really don't, right? Now, how do you know when you close your eyes, you're on a psychedelic drug, how much of what you're experiencing is your visual cortex interacting with your mind, interacting with these drugs, and your creativity and your consciousness, they're colliding and gliding and dancing together along with your imagination. And in the hold on a second. And in this moment, if you go into it with this intention, your imagination can conjure up this Jesus type character in the ayahuasca ceremony, and he can be real, and he can be what you want him to be, and he could be a manifestation of your own experiences in this life that you've carried around as memories and carried around as emotions, and that in this psychedelic state, if you continually go to it with that intention, it's entirely possible that they do experience the raw form of DMT.
Yeah, only once though.
Was it 5-MeO DMT or was it an NDMT? There's two different kinds. One.
Okay.
5-MeO, yeah.
Okay.
5-MeO is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
It's there's no visuals. It's a very intense feeling of connection, and it's very, very potent. In fact, I think it's like supposedly, obviously I'm not some sort of a scientist here, but supposedly it's even more powerful gram per gram than DMT is.
Really?
But the DMT, the NMDMT, is what you're getting in the ayahuasca.
Okay.
When you eat it, if you tried to eat DMT, there's a stomach chemical produce. Your stomach produces something called monoamine oxidase, apparently, and that breaks down DMT. So what these brilliant people that live in the Amazon have figured out how to do was mix the vine of one plant with the leaves of another and cook it all together. So they introduced a natural MAO inhibitor.
So,
all slightly different lives.
How was it when you did that, when you did the DMT?
I've done it a bunch of times. It's very strange.
I'm scared of that.
You should be scared.
Okay.
I'm scared.
And what does it look like? What does it look like? What
looks like, well, it depends on the purity of it. When you get it really pure, it's almost like a white-looking crystal. Sometimes it's a little bit yellowish. It's more of a yellowish-looking crystal. It's and you freebase it.
And that's something that our brain creates.
Yes,
secretes.
your brain produces it. It's one of the reasons why your body can bring it back to baseline so quickly. Your body knows what to do with it. It has it. It's a part of your whole chemical system.
How did you come up? Like, how did you read about this? How did you come up with this?
I don't remember how I first heard of it. I think I heard of it listening to Terrence McKenna talk about it. I think that was the first thing I ever heard of it. And when I first did it, I couldn't even believe. I couldn't believe that this is a possibility. That this is something that exists on Earth that so many people don't even know about.
Did you you need to lock the doors when you do it? Like you need to.
I mean, I did it in my living room with some friends.
Okay.
Sat down.
How long does it last?
About 15, 20
it's
minutes.
Short.
It's
I
very
thought it was like a 3-day thing. And I'm gonna.
No.
Okay.
It feels like it's 3 days.
Okay.
It feels like forever and then instant. It feels like it just happened, and it also feels like forever. But it's very strange. It feels like you've been there before. When you go there, that's one of the It's like you leave the world. You leave this space, and you go to some incredible dimension that seems more real. You got to take the leaves of one plant and
is that what Aubrey, your buddy, does?
Yeah, and they boil it down. It's DMT in a drinkable form, because otherwise DMT, the only way you could take it is you have to.
I've experienced DMT in real life.
Yeah,
when I had my accident, when my guts were hanging out of me. I remember.
What happened with your guts?
So that's where I got this giant scar.
What is that?
I wrecked a 4-wheeler.
Yeah,
and broke all my ribs. And anyways, I was in the hospital flight. Took the flight for life to the hospital, and I remember laying there in the gurney. They had me strapped down because I was a fucking lunatic, and I remember tipping the gurney over, and I had to throw up, and I threw up blood all over this poor nurse, and she did this little weird, oh God, I just got blood thrown up on me action. Whoa. And then I remember they set me back up, and it was like the most peaceful feeling of like everything was just okay, like no pain. Fucking like dying was okay, as stupid as that sounds and crazy, like it was just okay. I felt the best I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
It was like supernatural, man. It was crazy. Like I was in so much pain. Like, so I'm in the goddamn ambulance. They're taking me and there's a new guy in there. So my lungs are punctured. So they have this huge needle And the guy's telling the other guy how to fucking, because I guess you puncture your lung and then your air comes back, right? And the guy's like walking the new guy through, and I was like, fuck no. Like, I'm like, you know, I can't really say fuck no, but yeah, I was like, no, you do it.
Yeah, don't get the new guy to work on my
not
lungs.
not today, mother.
The mind sort of kicks in tenfold.
Yeah. I've experienced that. I've experienced where I'm walking down the street and then I have to be like, wait, is this real or was that real? Because it seemed really real. But here's my take on it is that DMT is too perfect. Like everything's too perfect in there and symmetrical. Like it would take, say this world that we know is a simulation, it would take far more computational power to put all these little flaws in, to put like a spill on the coffee table or whatever. It was 11 billion years since the Big Bang and 4 billion years of evolution, all to get this fucking little spill.
Maybe stop by because of your interest in DMT. Because DMT probably plays a role in this process. But this would change everything because we could, over time, learn to simulate this connection. If we can simulate the connection, then we can control the connection. We might be able to communicate more directly with these entities. By the way, this theory, which I call NTT or neural transduction theory, in fact, if people go to neuraltransductiontheory.com, they can read all about it, a piece I published in Discover magazine. The point is that this kind of theory would really help us a lot because of the mysteries. It's the mysteries that we try to ignore, but we can't. The dreams. Come on. Why does a dream sometimes have nothing to do with your daily life? Sometimes it's just so amazing and so...
During REM sleep, but it's hard to get hard to get a mouse to sleep while you got a fucking big saw mark on its brain or an opening in its brain and you're testing its pineal gland.
Right.
So the amount of evidence they have about humans, about when and where is kind of limited.
Yeah.
But now they're making these correlating. They're making a correlation based on the mammal, based on the mice, but they're trying to do more studies on human beings. More accurate studies, and trying to come up with more accurate ways of testing, especially during different stages, because the hypothesis is the theory is that when during heavy REM sleep and during periods of extreme stress, when your body believes that it's going to die, like if you're under extreme physical trauma, like people that have had extreme physical trauma, and they have that go to the light moment, the idea is that that's a dimethyltryptamine rush. And that the reason why they have these intense afterlife experiences, and I came back and it was amazing. I got to see my mother, and I went to this place, and God was there. Well, you can get there if you take psychedelic drugs. I mean, you can get there right now. A healthy person can have almost the exact same type of experience with psychedelic drugs, and it's just a crazy psychedelic drug.
Because the visions were pretty mild.
I would think the iboga in a sensory deprivation tank would be the ultimate.
Well, that might be a one to work up to. And prior to that, because oftentimes people ask me the question okay, I'm ready to have an experience. Where do I start? So step number one is float, and just float by yourself. Because a lot of people haven't even floated yet and really looked at their stuff. Because interestingly enough, it starts to promote our own DMT-like experience. We see what's in the default mode network now comes online. We're able to look at more introspective analysis and see what was just behind the curtain that we didn't notice was there.